Hi everybody, Dr. Sia here. Welcome to the What's the Diagnosis series. If you haven't checked out the intro about what these videos are about, make sure you do that now. In this session, you're going to see me working with Ali, who's attended therapy, and we don't quite know what the problem is that he has yet. The really good thing about these videos is that we're going to pause them at some point and you're going to get a chance to develop your own hypothesis before you hear me develop mine and provide to Ali sort of the ideas that I have about what might be going on for him. At the end of the video, we're going to wrap it up as well, so make sure you stay put and I'll see you soon. Ali, where would you like to start?
Well, I've been having a really persistent pain around my throat. I've had it for a very long time, and I've been to other doctors about this. My GP and a couple of specialists as well. We've done the MRIs and the usual battery of tests, and there's nothing abnormal that they can find.
Okay.
And finally, my last visit to the GP, she said, maybe you should consider that this might be a psychological, a mental problem. But I mean, I don't know. It doesn't. Obviously, I'm not a doctor, but
Sure.
it doesn't really. It's a physical pain that I'm feeling.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. She recommended it, so here I am.
Okay, here you go. Yeah, of course, yeah. It sounds sometimes a bit strange that you have pain and then someone says go to a psychologist.
Mm-hmm.
And you think, well, pain is a medical thing, but pain can also be a psychological thing, in its origins at least sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
But I suppose we can figure that out. And you say that you have this pain in the throat. Can you describe how do you actually feel that pain?
Well, it's not like a sore throat or anything. It's like it's like wearing a really tight necktie.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
So it's kind of a sort of a
Sure.
constricting pain.
Is it like a band that go like?
Yeah, across
from
the
here to
front.
there.
Yeah.
Okay. Hmm.
It's
Yeah. And what are the situations where it happens? Do you-
nothing really consistent. Like
No.
I mean, it's happened all kinds of places, all
Okay.
kinds of times.
How long has it been happening for?
Oh, going on about 20 years now, nearly.
20 years now.
Yeah.
How old were you when it began? So.
I think would have been my late teens, like 17, 18.
17, 18. Okay.
Something like that.
All right. Yeah. And when we look at it, sort of, when's the last time that it happened for you? This.
I had it actually last night.
Okay. And what was happening last night?
We went out to dinner with my dad,
Uh-huh.
my family and I. It's my dad's birthday, so we took him out to dinner.
Sure.
Yeah. So right after that is when on my way home, I started
Okay.
getting to it.
Well, what was the dinner like for you with your dad?
It was great.
Yeah.
My dad loves my kids, and everybody was getting. It was a nice evening.
Everyone was getting along, but then somewhere after, once you left, you started getting this band as well happening.
Yeah, when I was driving home, like
Okay.
almost immediately after
Almost
we left the restaurant.
Okay. And when you were 17, 18, you said, what was happening around that time when you got this band?
Well, I mean, I just moved out of home.
Hmm?
Uh,
How old were you?
18, I think it probably would have been 18.
18, okay, and you moved out of home, okay.
Yeah, and
What made you move out of home?
I had a very different relationship with my father at the time, which I wasn't getting along with him because he was I mean, obviously he wanted the best for me, so he was a very he was a disciplinarian.
Mhm.
Like he was he was a strict father.
Uh-huh.
Like he used to say, if you want cuddles, you go to your mother. You come to me when you need to be shown where the line is,
Sure.
which is important for you to know when you're an adult, because nobody's going to show you then, so I have to show you now.
Sure.
So yeah, and I used to. I mean, looking back, I understand why he was doing what he did.
Sure.
At the time, obviously, I didn't understand at the time, so
I
I didn't
understand.
like it at the time.
And when you say he was a disciplinarian, what would be a classic example of discipline?
Okay, I mean, it's gonna sound really bad now, given the context of the society we're in.
I
But
understand.
it used to be like physical punishments, like
Uh-huh.
beatings and that type of thing. But I mean, it's
How far would it go, the beatings?
ah, like he'd use a belt sometimes or something like that. He used to have a cane until it broke in the middle of a beating.
Uh-huh.
But I mean, but that's just the way things were. It was
Sure.
not. I didn't grow up in the 2000s.
I
You
understand.
know, I grew up in the 80s,
Mhm.
and that was like the normal thing to do. It wasn't just me. Like everybody, that's what. If you didn't get your grades up,
Yeah.
you went home knowing what you were heading for.
Yeah.
Like it's and again, just
You're
not just
suggesting
me.
that it was normal.
Well, it was
Right.
absolutely
Yeah.
normal. It was definitely normal because I mean, I grew up in India,
Mm.
and like academics are a big deal there. There's no focus on sports in schools.
Sure.
It's all about academics, and depending on looking at the kind of competition you have growing up,
Uh-huh.
if your parents don't make sure that you're excelling in academics, they're
Okay.
not doing their job.
And there's some idea there that what happened for you was that your father was basically beating you because he cared for you.
Oh, absolutely, no question. It's not like he got any pleasure out of beating me.
No.
It's not like he would come home drunk and take it out on me or anything like that.
Okay.
It was usually to do with something like my teacher had complained or
understand.
my grades weren't very good,
Yeah.
which they weren't.
No.
Because I mean, even now, like I do a trade. I'm not
Sure.
in anything remotely like an academic profession.
Yeah. And then you moved out, and this band began happening.
Yeah, like
around-
shortly after that.
Okay.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you exactly when, but it was very shortly after that.
And today, what are the feelings that you have towards your father?
I mean, I like he's you know like he's a friend.
Hmm. And the feelings
like-
that you have towards your father today in life, what are they?
I mean, no matter what, I still remember how I felt about him back then.
Hmm.
But I also understand now that everything that I have today, like my house and my wife and my
Sure.
car and my children and everything else, I wouldn't have any of that
Yeah.
if he hadn't put me through what he put me through.
Okay.
And I know that it wasn't coming from a malicious place
Mm-hmm.
inside him.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, I don't treat my children the way he treated me. But I also don't hold it against him that he did that, because that was the example he had
Sure.
to follow. And
Sure.
he didn't have this millennial information about how
understand.
does this affect children and what the right way to parent
Right.
and you know how you should discipline them.
Right.
And he also didn't. It wasn't in Australia.
No.
What he was preparing me for
Yeah.
wasn't this society.
I understand.
He was preparing me for a world where you know everybody and their dog had a degree,
Sure.
and I would have to go out and compete for a job in that market.
Mm-hmm.
And he didn't see a way, if I didn't get my grades up,
Yeah.
of how I was going to survive.
All right. And Ali, I just want us to focus a little bit on something here. As we're talking here about the feelings that you have towards your father, what do you notice happening inside here just now? Did you notice what you just did there?
Yeah. So
What happened there? Are you
I
feeling
felt
the
it
band
like-
right now?
Yeah, I felt it tighten up a little bit.
Okay, yeah. All right, so, I mean, there seems to be that when we talk about the feelings that you have towards your father, if it's not that you agree with his actions, and it seems like you do, but at the same time, it seems like some things are happening for you in your neck just now. Yes, there's some suggestion there that there might be some association between your feelings for your father and this band that you have here. It sounds to me like these kind of problems, we call them sometimes somatoform type problems. Basically meaning that your emotional problems are being expressed some way as a medical or physical problem.
Right.
So sometimes when we have really strong emotional feelings about things, they can, and we don't really know how to explore them or express them or feel about them, and we might be a bit confused about how we feel about them. We might feel them physically instead. So for example, I'm not saying that this is the case, but what you and I can look at more is the possibility that perhaps you have some complicated feelings there towards your father for this experience. Not again to say that that's the case, but it could be, and that's expressed somehow as a physical experience.
Pain.
As
right.
a pain, yeah.
Okay.
So I mean, we can take a look at that a bit more. We don't have to make any conclusions. But how would you feel about having a look at it that way?
Well, I mean, I'm happy to explore it, but yeah, I mean, it's kind of a new idea for me.
Okay.
Like I've never. I mean, my relationship with my father now, it's not been that.
No, of course.
So.
Of course.
I mean, yeah, I guess I'm open to it, but
Okay.
it's not really something I'd considered before.
No, all right. Well, we'll have a look and we'll see where we end up.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so that was the session with Ali. Now, thinking about that, I don't know what you thought was going on, but I strongly suspected that it's a somatoform problem. Basically, what we looked at was that no medical tests had proven anything that was going on for Ali. That's very important. Before we decide that a pain problem is psychological in origin, we have to make sure that it's not medical in origin. So he'd gone through a series of tests. They've all shown that there's nothing going on. So the doctor had referred him back to me. And then the second point that I first observed, and I don't know if you noticed this, but the very first time he said he has a problem with his throat, he went like this, right? Almost as though like he's being choked in a way. So then next time he shows me, he goes like this even. And these are sort of signs that the pain problem may be psychological in origin. He had a band that goes like this. And one thing that you want to think about is there's no real like muscle or nerve that goes from here over to here as well. So if it would be medical in origin, you might find that it goes here along the nerves or there along the nerves or maybe something like that. Not that it just goes across all of them like this. So we started suspecting that it might be a somatoform problem, and very quickly Ali goes into talking about how he was physically beaten up by his father. And as he does that, I'm almost, I feel really soft inside, and I'm like, oh goodness, poor man. I mean, that must have been so hard for him. But he quickly goes to defending his father, saying he was just normal those days, he was out of care. And I started thinking, I wonder if you have some complicated feelings towards your father, that maybe you love him very much, but maybe some part of you is actually pretty angry about what he's done to you as well. And he then talks about sort of how he got this, or earlier before that, he talks about how he got this band as well last night after he spent time with his father when he was in the car. So then I asked him, how do you feel towards your father today? And he starts identifying with his father and saying, yeah, good. I mean, it's all good. My dad's a good man. Like I said, he's a really great man in that. And then I sort of sensed that maybe he was defending a little bit there. So I pushed in on it again and I said, how do you feel towards your father? And did you see what happened when I did that the second time? Immediately, he sort of went for his throat again. Have a look at the video again. See if you notice that. He went for his throat again, and he started feeling a bit constricted. And I said, did you notice? Did you notice that just now when I asked you what feelings you have towards your father, that you got a little bit like this? And he did. He went, yeah. I did notice that. Now, we again don't want to bank on anything here. We don't want to, just off the basis of 10 minutes, pretend like we're sure about what's happening. But I think we have a good working hypothesis. And if you can sort of develop a hypothesis like this early on and work with your patient as you move forward, you're always going to make sure that your diagnosis is better off than it would have been if you just decide about what it is and then move on from there. So I hope you really enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one.